everybody. Welcome back to the High Roller Sports Betting Podcast. And once again, you're here with Coach and T, and we are ready to break down all the Week 0 and Week 1 big games. We're moving on to Saturday, September 3rd now, and the first game that we got on the docket is Houston at UTSA. This one's going to be the tough one to find. This is on the CBS Sports Network at 3:30 Eastern Time. There's a lot of games on our slate. Well, a couple more games on our slate, also at 3:30. So you're going to have multiple monitors on for this one. I know we'll either be at a book or watching this on multiple monitors. Houston right now is a -4.5 point favorite, and I want to say the over/under on this is 59 at time of recording. So that being said, tell us a little something about this game.
Two teams that had phenomenal years last year.
Yep.
Both of them 12-2. Both of them were good ATS and profitable against the number. Both of them were more of an over team versus an under team. Both going 8-6. Both of them return around 80% of their offensive production from a year ago. And both of them return north of 60% of their defensive production from a year ago.
So what you're telling me is this is going to be a sneaky good game.
This should be a good one. I'm really looking forward to this.
Sneaky, entertaining game.
Yeah. I mean, UTSA brings back 8 offensive starters from the best offense that they've had in school history.
Wow.
5 on the defensive side of the ball. Houston, kind of similar. 7 offensive starters, 6 defensive starters. Big one for Houston. Clayton Tune is back behind center. Quarterback put up 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns last year. Had a huge year. And the big thing that I want to point out with Tune is every quarterback. You look at where Dana has been. Every time the quarterback's going into their last year, that last season is always their best year. Going back to when he was at West Virginia. No matter where he's gone, it's always been a relatively significant uptick in production.
And he was solid last year.
Yeah, he had a great, 3,500 yards and 30 touchdowns.
He was solid last year.
Just south of 70% completion percentage.
Wow.
I mean, he's really good. Tank Dell, his top wide receiver, is back. He's one of the best wide receivers in the country. He had 90 catches last year, 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns. He returns. Top 2 running backs are both back, where both of them, McCaskill had 1,000 yards, and then Henry had over 500 yards, but they combined for 23 touchdowns. Both of them right around 5 yards per carry.
Yep.
So Houston brings back a lot, except for their offensive line. Houston only brings back 2 returning starters, but they do have 65 career starts. So they have some experience.
Those 2 are solid and should be able to help out some.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, they lose 2 all-conference D linemen, Houston does.
Yeah.
But Houston is one of those, they bring back 10 of their top 12 in terms of snaps on the D-line.
Oh, okay.
And was it Sack Avenue, I think is the term that they're called, or that they've given. I want to say that's the Houston.
Oh, they gave it to themselves.
Yeah, where, I mean, they get after the quarterback. That's what they do.
Okay.
Very, very solid defensive line. UTSA, phenomenal year, 12-2.
Yeah.
Did have what we consider 5 close wins. And you think when it's down to a possession and those coin flip type of games, last year UTSA was 5-0.
Oh, okay.
That is a potential regression to a mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where now, yes, they're a year older. We'll see what they do this year.
Yeah.
But that is just something to note right on the top. Frank Harris, again, quarterback is back. He had a good year, over 3,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions.
Yeah. Very nice.
But he does have an injury. He is injury prone, and they do not have the depth and experience that they had last year if he would go down. Now, again, you don't handicap turnovers or injuries, but that is just something to note if something would happen.
Good note for the future. Remember when I talk about information, this being an information business, when you're looking at the quarterback room at UTSA, that could be a very big line change if that young man goes down. And if you don't know about it or haven't looked into it, you just see that all of a sudden UTSA has a line that doesn't make sense to you because they're a good team, that may very well be the case. So just keep that in mind for future games.
UTSA lost one of, if not the best player in program history. They
Okay.
had running back Sincere McCormick, had 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns, averaged 5 yards a carry.
Yeah. They hell of a year.
He was the workhorse for him.
Yeah.
Now, they did throw the ball a little bit more than the betting public anticipated because they did have McCormick in the backfield. But when you've got to try to replace somebody like that, similar to what we were talking about with Michigan State, it may end up being a little bit more by committee versus that superstar.
Yeah.
They do add an SEC transfer from Arkansas, but will he have the same impact? We'll have to just wait and
Don't
see.
know.
He is going to be running behind a fantastic offensive line that returns 4 starters and adds a Big Ten transfer from Northwestern as well. So their O-line is going to be solid. How that, to me, is the biggest matchup. UTSA's offensive line versus Houston's defensive line.
Yeah, I agree, and that's one of the reasons why I think this is going to be a sneaky good game. I think you're going to see some points be put on the board in this one.
Yeah.
So where do you think
defensively for UTSA? Their D-line, they lost a couple guys but do return 5 of their top 7 or 8. They have good depth, but they lost their outside linebacker that had double-digit sacks.
Yeah.
Their best pass rusher
Good edge
is
rush.
gone, and their secondary doesn't return a lot, which is key because on the other side of the football, when you have Clayton Tune finding Dell,
Yeah.
they aren't going to be able to stop that.
Yeah.
And Houston is going to be able. I envision Dell having a big game, and UTSA not being able to slow that down.
I can see that happening. Yeah. What are you thinking about this game?
Well, if you listened to our college football preview podcast,
Yeah.
we talked about this game.
Yeah.
I have Houston. This line has moved against me. I understand why, because UTSA does return a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I have Houston around a 2-touchdown favorite.
Yeah.
So this is a play for me. I've got Houston on the spread. I also combined that with the total.
Okay.
Now,
Explain why.
so my vision of this game is UTSA is not going to be able to slow down Houston.
Okay, even with that discrepancy, not having a lot of offensive linemen coming back and being
I
able
think
to get after 'em.
Houston is going to be able to put points on the board.
Okay.
If this game is not going to be covered by Houston, meaning UTSA covers the number plus 4.5,
Yeah.
they're going to have to put points on the board. I do not see this game ending 24-21.
Okay.
So where I'm looking at this game, I've got Houston minus 4.5, and I also have the over.
Okay.
Because I don't envision going 0-2 in those.
Yeah.
I think at worst, and we talked about it again in that college football preview podcast. At worst, you're going to go 1-1, lose the juice, but I think there's a strong likelihood of going 2-0 because I could see Houston putting up, if the secondary from UTSA can't slow them down, Houston could put up 40.
Yeah.
And if Houston puts up 40, UTSA offensively is good enough to score 21.
Yep. I agree.
They're good enough to put points on the board. Now, one of the reasons why I really like Houston is because of that defensive line. Even against a great O-line in UTSA, it's still a difference in levels.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And, I mean, for me, this is another daily fantasy plug here, but the Dell kid, the wide receiver, I think he's going to have a phenomenal day, meaning the offense is going to have a phenomenal day. Tune should be very good, but I think Dell will be special. And I agree with
He's legit.
I could see Dell going for over 200 yards in this game and racking up a touchdown or two, and that alone is just too much of the difference. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think Houston is the right play in this game, and we'll see. But once again, I think it's going to be a sneaky good game, and I think it's a game you definitely want to tune into.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to UTSA.
Not at all.
I think they're a phenomenal program.
Yeah, they're going to have another good year.
But Houston is just that next level. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with you there.